Was Napoleon Bonaparte really short? Let's bust some myths and dive into the real story of this legendary figure. You've probably seen paintings of him. A powerful, imposing general, hand tucked into his waistcoat. But what did he actually look like? For starters, the whole short guy thing is mostly a myth. He was around 5 feet 6 or 5 feet 7 inches tall, which was actually average or even slightly above average for a Frenchman in the early 19th century. So where did the short stereotype come from? British propaganda. Mostly. They loved to caricature him as a tiny, angry man with a massive hat, a character they called Little Boney. It was a brilliant way to cut a powerful enemy down to size, at least in the papers. French measurements at the time were also different from British ones, which added to the confusion. His own imperial guard were all tall men, making him look shorter by comparison. So not a giant, but definitely not the tiny tyrant he was made out to be. Napoleon wasn't just a military genius. He was a master of propaganda. He understood the power of image long before social media was even a dream. Every painting, every statue was carefully crafted to project an image of strength, wisdom, and authority. He had his court painter, Jacques-Louis David, portray him as a heroic figure, crossing the Alps on a magnificent rearing horse, when in reality he probably rode a mule. He wanted to be seen as a successor to the Roman emperors, a man of destiny who brought order out of the chaos of the French Revolution. He controlled newspapers, censored plays, and made sure that the official story was always the one that made him look best. This carefully built image was crucial to maintaining his power and the loyalty of his people. So how did it all come crashing down for the man who seemed invincible? It's a story of ambition overreaching itself. Napoleon's continental system, an attempt to cripple Britain by blocking its trade with Europe, ended up hurting the economies of his allies more. This caused resentment and weakened his alliances. Then came the catastrophic decision to invade Russia. In 1812, he marched in with his Grande Armée, over 500,000 strong, expecting a quick victory. But the Russians just kept retreating, burning everything in their path and leaving Napoleon's army to starve and freeze in the brutal Russian winter. It was a disaster. He returned with only a fraction of his men. This devastating loss showed the world he was vulnerable. His enemies, Britain, Austria, Prussia, and Russia, saw their chance. They formed a new coalition against him. Despite some brilliant early victories, Napoleon's depleted forces were eventually overwhelmed at the Battle of Leipzig in 1813, also known as the Battle of Nations. Pushed back into France, he was forced to abdicate the throne in 1814 and was exiled to the small island of Elba. But the story doesn't end there. In a move that stunned Europe, Napoleon escaped from Elba, landed in France, and rallied the people and the army to his side. He marched on Paris and reclaimed his title as emperor, all without firing a single shot. This comeback is known as the 100 Days. The European powers, however, were not about to let him regain his power. They quickly mobilized their armies. The final act took place on a field in Belgium, the Battle of Waterloo. On June 18, 1815, Napoleon's army clashed with a coalition force led by the Duke of Wellington and the Prussian Marshal Blucher. It was a brutal, hard-fought battle, but in the end Napoleon was defeated for the last time. This time his captors weren't taking any chances. They exiled him to the remote, windswept island of St. Helena in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. He spent his final 6 years there, dictating his memoirs and cementing his own legend before his death in 1821. From a Corsican boy to the master of Europe, and back to an exile on a lonely rock, Napoleon's life was more dramatic than any fiction. Thanks for watching this deep dive into the life of Napoleon. If you enjoyed this history lesson, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories from the past. See you next time.